everyone. Welcome to our Thursday morning trading session. Hang on here just a second. Okay, the market's opened in a big way. Got a big rally out of the open. Well, sort of a big rally. It looks a little bit bigger here on our Hawk scalper. But still a pretty good push to the upside to start the morning. Okay, of course I'm looking at the NASDAQ here on this particular monitor. I'm also following crude oil and soybeans. But feel free to ask for any market that you'd be interested in seeing. All right, so we're just waiting now for our first signal to print. Oil also up a little bit. Here's crude oil now on the Falcon. And you can see this occurred about a half an hour before this morning's open. This signal here occurred pretty much on the open of the oil market this morning, so a little bit of a rally there. This happened to be a late filter entry signal. For those of you following the Falcon, late filter entry signal occurs when the filter goes out of sync, comes back into sync. Trend line, however, never changes color. That's what makes that such a strong signal. Oh, and I shouldn't have looked away because we got a first micro-macro cross signal here at the same time, or while I was showing you that. And we're getting a couple of signals here, one on the Raptor, one on the Falcon. The Raptor signal, I'll just set up. I should actually just go in with a single, but we'll swing for the fences here this morning. So this is essentially a cloud crossover signal. The market looking a little bit range bound, however. So this is why I said maybe I should only go in with a single contract. If the market is in fact range bound, we could see a little bit of resistance up here. However, I'm hoping that if the market reacts to these overnight highs, then maybe I can at least get the trade to break even before we see some sort of reaction there. No signal just yet. We're just printing the warning dots. Ideally, we would see the market retreat into the cloud and then the cloud bounce the market up. That would be a much more predictable signal. Problem with this signal as well is it's hard to gauge where the test of the extreme is. Was the test of the extreme this portion right here, and now the market is prepared to rally? Or, more likely than not, I'm going to see one more retest before the market tries to rally. So it's to our advantage to try to buy lower rather than to get in near these highs. So if the market does bring us in here, I'm going to have to cover the trade fairly deep. That was the similar problem here with all the signals, by the way. We're having a trend change signal here on the Falcon. So we know it's going to print up there. Stops need to go way down there. All right, so that's starting to negate the signal now that we printed a red bar with a red warning dot. The Hawk trade, same thing. If you're in here on your first micro-macro cross, you need to cover way down there. It's not to say the signal isn't valid. It's just we need to cover it fairly deep in order to make that signal work. So let's go back here now to the Raptor, which may end up hitting our buy signal. The market market definitely looking bullish right now, though. No, they're slipping away too. All right, well, here comes that part of the cloud crossover I was talking about where we can expect the market to move into the cloud and then for the cloud to bounce the market out. I haven't adjusted my trade just yet. Gotta wait for another set of warning dots. This signal here, by the way, has voided. But rather than delete the signal and put it back on, what I'll do is I'll just move it in when the new signal develops. Well, I thought things were going to be bullish, maybe not. Maybe we're just going to see a great big sideways range here. Back down to near where we opened on the day. All right, we'll put that on the shelf. We'll leave it alone. Soybeans producing a trend change signal lower. Now, when your signal produces right here and the lows are just 2 ticks away, those are times I'll normally offer up a couple of extra ticks and enter below the lows, try to get some renewed momentum. So there's a possible little soybean trade. Okay, here on the hawk, we're working a macro pullback signal. Same thing though, we gotta move it further away or leave our stops further away as we anticipate this test of the extreme. It's a pretty crazy range though. Are they just going to keep slipping here? My goodness. They're going to take out this morning's open. Wow. Well, that's a huge retrace. All right, so here we go. There's going to be one last chance for the buyers coming up here. So we're producing a red bar buy signal on the hawk. goes that red bar buy signal. Wow, that was a crazy, crazy move. That's very unusual to get a first micro macro cross like this and not at least get enough follow through to find your profit objective. Not to say we're there yet, but the bias has certainly shifted. We have gone from an apparently bullish market to a much more bearish one. And, here on the Raptor, it shows it pretty well. We may end up just in this great big trading range that I was showing you earlier. This may be all the market's going to do. So we could end up here near the bottom end of the range, watch the market rally back near the top, off again, and so on and so forth until we actually break out. All right, so here they are now testing the bottom end of the trading range. Same problem, but in reverse now. First micro macro cross lower. We need to cover the trades near the high. If you're still in this first micro macro cross signal and your stops were down here, you would use any rally at this point to start to adjust your stops a little bit. A wild morning, my goodness, we don't usually see these swings like this in the middle of summer. Usually, I was expecting another dull session. In fact, here what I'm going to do on the Hawk, because I'm just running a single, I'm going to delete my profit objective, see if this isn't going to have some follow through to it, to the short side. It's a little bit riskier. Remember, the high probability profit targets, very often we'll see the market engage the high probability target and then reverse. Here's the soybean trade. It seems to be progressing nicely. So it's in a situation you could adjust your stop somewhat, certainly above these bars here with these wicks to them, or at the very least somewhere near break even. The NQ being a little slippery this morning. So lots of volume coming back in here near these lows. And you can see we're kind of pinched between the secondary support and the median line. We came up a little bit short, but we've got the primary support kind of skewering the market right now. Okay. Well, they're fading from first micro-macro cross lower, which just sort of reinforces the notion that perhaps this market is in a trading range. I'll follow it along here for a little bit, but if the higher they go, the more neutral they get. If they start introducing yellow bars again, that's really going to suggest trading range material. All right, here they go. So again, I'm going to try to run this one out a little bit. Our target just below the low of this bar. Let's see, do we have a Raptor signal yet? Oh, we do too. So the Raptor producing a signal at the same time. This Raptor trade actually looking a little bit better than the Hawk trade because it would need to make a new low, and you see the volume that was associated with this low, this fat bar that's right here. So this would offer a more predictable trade than the Hawk trade. The Hawk trade still hasn't proven to us that the sellers are in control of this market. Yes, it's a high probability signal, but even so, yeah. See how it's drifting higher here now? A little of that was to be anticipated, but the sellers have got to step in here soon, or it's going to be a whipsaw type trade. If you're currently long from this first micro macro cross, your stop should be at least down below these lows. I know it's not much, but it will give you take a few dollars out of the risk equation. Soybeans have since hit our profit objective, which was nice. Hooray for us. And a little bit of a reaction now if off the target. Oh, having a sneezing fit this morning here. So if I don't reach my mute button in time, I apologize. All right, let's take a look here what's going on the Raptor. We have almost a perfect cloud crossover. So the cloud's crossed over, the market's retreated into the cloud, now it's coming back out of the cloud. The signal here is still valid, by the way, because it's below the lows, but we should end up printing another signal. We haven't seen a contrary signal print, so you could go with that one. Okay, so there's the fresh signal that you could look to take, or you could just enter below the lows here. We're getting a second push on, or a slight second push on this signal. I may opt for the earlier entry. Come on. Come on. You know you want to. Get down there. All right, so now they're going to make a run at the lows. And if we see them take out the lows, then we should be in pretty good shape. So lots of buying on these levels right here. So if we can take out those buyers, then we're going to see those buyers exit their orders. Okay, it's probably, well, we'll wait for one more push lower. We could roll our stops above this high. I would love to see the sellers step in here one more time. This is a real tug of war we got going on here this morning. Remember, it's not a stop loss until it gets hit. And if it does get hit, that's why you want to protect yourself. You don't want to risk more than you can afford. You want to cap your risk at a certain percentage of your trading capital. Oops, and speaking of which, let's get that stop back out of the way. Oh, not liking this. Come on, sellers. Okay, we got a real mess going on now. So we've got the or the buyers producing a soft edge buy signal, and I'm just going to adjust my stops a little bit. Okay, I'll give them this bar here. And same thing with the hawk. I just have a single position in place so I can perhaps be a little bit more generous with this one.
Order canceled.
Oh gosh. Oh, the humanity. Look at you stinkers. Well, good news for those of you who bought here on the first micro macro cross up here. Your stops initially should have been down here. You could have rolled them to here, now to here. And quite honestly, at this point, I'd be getting a little bit anxious. I think I'd maybe have my stops to here or maybe even below this low, below the matching lows. So your initial risk exposure may have been, well, whatever it was. In this case, I think it was probably about $300, down to about $100 if the market reverses at this point. And here we took the stop out on the Raptor trade, and I guess we'll see whether or not that was a good idea to take the early stop out. What I should have done is I shouldn't have got more aggressive on the trade. That's pretty obvious right now, right? The proper place to enter was below here, below the lows. Again, for the sake of a couple of ticks, I got a little cocky with the market. I tried to take it early. That's why I also took the earlier stop out, because I realized that I had gotten there a little bit too quick. Oh, and here they come again. So, yeah, it's looking a lot like a trading range kind of day today. Producing now a first micro macro cross higher, And it seems also like it's a good idea to take profit when you have it. On these sideways kind of days. Right. So, first micro macro cross, obviously if the market continues higher above there, it's going to fail. All right, come on, play nice now. All right, it looks like the market is in fact going to continue a little bit higher here. We're going to get stopped on the hawk trade here as they take out the highs, but that'll be a good place to exit. There's no question it's tough trading when the market is moving so sideways. You need to do your best to be patient with the market at this point.
Order canceled. Order filled.
And here we go, we're heading back near the highs. The Falcon producing a trend change signal. We did get a trend change signal lower, and now we're looking at producing a trend change signal higher. There it is right there. And let's hope that this one doesn't end up inside a trading range also. We're going to need to see the market breach the highs of the morning in order for us to reach our profit objective. So perhaps a second push on the entry, not a bad idea, as we let the market retreat a little bit. So here we are on the Raptor. You can see the same thing. Same kind of signal, not really a cloud crossover yet. The cloud crossover, we expect the market to move back into the cloud and then for the cloud to push it out. Similar to what we saw here, except, of course, I got on a little bit too early. It's not to say we won't see any follow through from here, but we've already got it covered here in the Falcon. So I'll just stay with that one. Big deal now to breach the high and stay above there. And so far, so good. Soybeans kind of hitting the sideways skid. Crude oil making a fairly decent rally today overall. So still plodding along. Nothing too terribly exciting, but a nice steady progression. That's on the Falcon, of course. All right, so the Raptor, working on that cloud crossover now. This is why you don't want to panic just because the market moves against you a little bit. The market does move higher, it does move lower over the course of the day, as we're all aware. But just out of curiosity, I bet you, after all that, I think the hawk finally found its profit target. After all that waiting, there you go. You would have finally realized your profit objective. As much as we love to see the market make a straight line to its target, doesn't happen all that often. Wow, they're really stubborn on the follow through today. Well, just waiting for the market to recover and make its next push. All right, so here they come now on the Falcon. It looks like we might get a little bit of follow through here. Let's go. All right. Got a little bit anxious there. Not the follow through I was anticipating. Well, folks, there's not much going on here as we just have to wait for the buyers and sellers to regroup and see what it is they're going to do. right, here we go. The big push. Oh, all the action. Come on, let's go. We're just stuck here now below the median line. Oh my goodness. Well, there's not much we can do about it, is there? Nope, there's not. It does look like they may try to press a little bit higher here, though. Believe it or not. We've spent a lot of time here at the highs. I love it. Marlene says, I'm doing needlepoint while I trade. I'm getting a lot of it done. That's perfect. Yeah, I'm sorry. There's not much we can do about it. Tony asks, can you show me a crude oil hawk chart? I want to compare. All right, there we go. There's crude oil on the hawk. The market opened. You could have considered this your first micro macro cross signal here on the crude oil market off this morning's open, because everything was out of sync through here. Your trend lines went out of sync, your filter went out of sync, your bar colors went out of sync, and this is your first signal where everything is in sync. Right. So there's crude oil, all the action in the crude oil market. And I'm checking other markets, but there is nothing going on here.
Order canceled.
All right, so, oh, we hit the break even. Must have hit the break even trigger. Market backed up, hit the break even. Oh my goodness. I almost snoozed right through that one. All right, well, again, we're just on hold now. Yeah, getting some interesting comments from you guys. Melanie says, sheesh, I'm going to take a nap and come back later. I think it's Floyd's got it nailed here. The Fed speaks at 1 p.m. Eastern, so the market's a little bit more dead than usual, if that's possible. Daniel asking, can you explain how to use the auto break even? Absolutely, Daniel. The auto break even, what you do is you go here into your Strategies tab, or you can right click and go to Strategies. And you'll double click so your trade manager will end up down here. Now the first time you do it, you can make all your changes. If your trade manager is already active, what you need to do is you need to disable it. So you need to turn your trade manager off. So turn it to false, click apply, and now you can make changes to your trade manager. Because it's a strategy, you cannot change it while it's in use. You have to turn it off first. Up here at the top, the second from the top, is your auto break-even parameters. So first you have your on-off switch. So you'll need to turn that to true to enable your trade manager. And now you can set your break-even trigger, however many ticks you want your break-even to activate at. Now normally I go anywhere around 75 to 80% of my profit objective. I figure if the market gets that close to hitting my profit target and comes up short, well then I'll probably be satisfied with a break-even stop out. In the case of the Eagle here, I'm running a 40-tick profit objective, so 80% of that, 75, 80% would be around 30 ticks, 30, 32, 35 ticks, whatever you like. And then last but not least, you have your break-even offset. So by default, it's set to 1 tick. That means you're going to be break-even plus 1 tick. But you can set that as high as you want. So for instance, here in the Eagle, perhaps if I'm up 30 ticks, I want to make sure I protect at least 10 in profit, right? So why should the market back up on me the whole way? When everything is to your liking, you go back here to your enabled button and you hit true, apply it, and now your trade manager is set up with your break even according to your parameters. Now we don't have a trade going on here, but I'm just going to show you how this works. So we're going to set up our trade to look like this. Hopefully we'll get an uptick. Okay, so now I've got my break even automatically in play. So if the break even should hit, my break even stop will go to break even plus 10 ticks. Because that's what I currently have it set up for, right? Break even plus 10 ticks. Oh, there's no signal, but we might get lucky here anyways, so I can demonstrate that. Marlene's asking, what are the other break-evens I have? For example, the Hawk, the Raptor, and the Falcon. Again, they're set at around 75, 80%. So on the Hawk, I'm running a 10-tick target for the NASDAQ, so my break-even is at 8 ticks. The Falcon and the Raptor, I both have 20-tick objectives. Therefore, my break-even is at 15. It's not, a hard and fast rule. The idea of the break-even stop, as I mentioned, is to eliminate a pullback. If I figure if the market gets 75, 80% of my profit objective, for instance, here on the Hawk, so here's a macro pullback signal. If the market gets 80% of the way to my signal, which we're at right now, and fails, well then I'll take the break-even stop out. But in most cases, it will give you those extra 2 ticks. So that's just the whole point of the break-even scenario. Now sometimes when the market thrashes about a little bit, you may get stopped prematurely. But, you know, a break-even stop out is not necessarily well, it's not a loss. A break-even is a win. Anything not a loss is not a loss. Yeah, sure. Daniel's asking, can you repeat the break even for the Falcon and Hawk? Again, it's just 75, 80%. So the Hawk, I have a 10 tick target, so my break even is at 8 ticks. The Falcon and Raptor, I have 20 tick targets, so my break even is at 15. Some people used to like a earlier break even, like they would break even at 7 ticks and protect 3. I found that a little bit too tight because the market can go up 7 ticks, fluctuate just a little bit, stop you out, and it would be a premature stop out. All right, so we're going to actually get to be able to see the break-even trigger work here. So you see I have break-even, and you see here plus 10 ticks. So you can adjust this on the fly as well if you want to protect more, if you want to dial it back, whatever. Paco is asking, Eric, can you explain how to eliminate the vertical red and green bars on the Raptor? Sure. All right. So you need to go here now to your indicator tab. Find your Raptor tool. Then go down to the very bottom. You're going to see this feature here that says background opacity. Yours is probably set at 2. Change the value to 0 and then click apply, and voila, no more red and green vertical lines. Oh, by the way, while we've been messing around with this, you probably noticed the macro pullback signal and a late filter entry signal here on the Falcon and a cloud crossover signal on the Raptor. Isn't that always the way? You mess around with something else and then the market gives you some signals. Oh well, that's trading. All right, so we'll hang with this for a little bit and we'll see if we can't, or you know what, what did I set that at, 30? Yes, so I'm going to force this in a little bit earlier. We're going to see it hit break even and you're going to see the trail stop, there we go up to 10 ticks. So now no matter what, I've locked in 10 ticks worth of profit. Very, very handy feature, the break-even trigger. I like it a lot. Well, I'm glad you sim traded it, Tony. Tony says, got bored, so I sim traded an OCO order on the natural gas report, down $225. Oh yes, natural gas. They're even more violent than the crude oil traders, that's for sure. Well, folks, I think we're going to close up the room here. I know it's a little bit earlier than usual, but really sounds like until that FOMC report or the Fed minutes come out, we're not going to get a whole lot happening here. I do expect the market to plod a little bit higher. I think we can see maybe one more push to the upside, but don't leverage yourself too heavily. It's that kind of day. Daniel's asking if the target on the Hawk is 10 ticks, where do you put the break even? I put the break even at 8. See, here, we'll do a hawk trade. See, the break even is 8 ticks. Oh, here, I guess I should do it the other way. So we'll do it like this. We'll put our stops down here. All right, so there's my profit objective at 10 ticks, and my break even is at 8. Again, 75, 80% I figure. If the market goes that far and doesn't give me the other 2 ticks, then I may as well take the break-even stop out. Okay? So again, that's just a rule of thumb. If you're more comfortable rolling to break even when you're halfway to your profit target, then by all means do that. Sometimes if you're running multiples, for instance here on the Raptor, if I'm running two contracts, pardon me, and again, I'm just going to pop into an order here. It isn't a real trade. You can see my break even is actually past my profit objective. So in this case, I'll leave my stops back here, take profit on one, and not roll the second contract to break even until it's up here. It all depends what your objective is with the trade. Most times I'm all in, all out on a trade. Therefore, it looks more like this. Most times I want to take the profit when I have it. So I'm going to look at a break-even trigger on the way to my profit objective. But if you're looking for a bigger move on the market, then maybe you will take your profit early and roll the second stop to break even a little bit later. Again, the options are endless. It's whatever your objective for the trade is. But if you're looking for a rule of thumb, 3/4 of the way to your profit objective. And that's when you can consider rolling your trade to break even. Oh, don't apologize for the questions, Daniel. There's, you can see there's nothing else going on. The questions at least help pass the time a little bit. All right, well, if there aren't any more questions, if you do have a question, just type really quick question or Q or whatever, and I'll wait for you. Otherwise, I think we're going to close up the room here this morning. Hopefully things will be a little bit more active for us tomorrow. No? All right. Like I say, I think we can be slightly bullish on the day. The buyers seemingly in control for the most part, but still a very slow plodding kind of session. All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow then. Bye for now.